And a very good evening to you all. Welcome to the OZ CRO Soccer Show. All decked out, ready to go. It's the UEFA, or the European Nations League week. And my name is Tonci Prusats, and introducing from the harbour city, Ante Grabovac, still coming over his return from Lijepa Naša. Mate, good evening, and how are you? Hope things have somewhat normalised.
No, they haven't normalised. Of course, United lost, Gold Coast Knights lost. It's been a bad week, Tonci. Jeez, let me tell you.
And on top of that, Šibenik lost.
They
come in
that's
threes.
right.
So that means
been a shocking weekend.
that Croatia later this week, are going to do well. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk all the things that are happening overseas at the moment. The HNL, the Prva Hrvatska Nogometna Liga, is taking a break this weekend for a good reason, because it is the Nations League campaign kicks off. It's one of those tournaments. Kind of, it's not the World Cup, it's not the Euro Championships. It's just another one. Do we really care? But we'll have a chat a bit about that.
It was good when we got to the final, but to me, they're just, I keep calling them glorified friendlies. But anyway, some people have got, different opinions about it, but to me, they're just friendlies in another, basically wrapped up in another market.
Yeah, I mean, potentially Zlatko Dalic could use it as a good tool to bring in a whole new generation, a transition, embark on a transition, but he hasn't really done that with the players he's picked. So is there any point to it? I don't know. I agree to stay home and just drink a Karlovačko, I think. Why not? But what do you think, folks? Do you guys agree with Tweedledee and Tweedledum, i.e. Ante and I? I don't know. If not, tell us. Tell us in the comments section. We'd love to have your feedback. Ante, also tonight, a bit more domestic, closer to home, where our special guest tonight is going to be a ripper, folks. SIME PINCIC, he's the president of the Melbourne Knights Football Club. Last week we had Sydney United. This week we've got Melbourne Knights, and lots been happening down there at the Knights. They've been upgrading their facilities on the outside. I was going to say outside courts. That's something that they use in tennis terms, but the outside pitches. They've reappointed Ivan Franjic as their coach, even though he has retired as a player. And probably the most interesting thing that I'm going to look forward to asking SIME Ante is his views, his thoughts on the national second division. As we know, the Melbourne Knights pulled out and said, nah, we don't want to have a bar of this, at least in the first season. And it's almost like their decision has been vindicated, because no one really knows what the hell is going on.
Absolutely right, Tonci. And just when you were talking a bit earlier, I was just thinking it's actually, I don't know if we've mentioned it this year, but it's actually the 40th anniversary since both Sydney Croatia and Melbourne Croatia, as they were known back then, actually joined the NSL. And, so it's, 1984 it was. So, here we are 40 years later. And sometimes, some people have said, we wouldn't last. But look, we're still going strong. So it'd be great speaking to SIME.
Yeah, it's funny because off air we were talking about the old days, the NSL days, and the demise of the NSL, the introduction of the A-League, and the way it was all handled, which we both agreed was just wrong. But I just think to myself, if the NSL had kept going for another couple more years, would Sydney United still be around, or would they have bankrupted, because it was losing a lot of money? And that's probably my fear about this national second division. Yeah, it'll be all great, all be well good, but there's a lot of teams there that are not crowd-pulling teams. They are not exactly the most attractive opponents, whether it be for someone like Sydney Croatia or Melbourne Croatia. And I just think to myself, just how lucrative, or in fact the opposite, how costly of an exercise would a national second division be. But folks, stay tuned for that. That's going to come a little later on. We'll also go through the tournament groupings for the upcoming Australian Croatian Soccer Tournament. The draw was drawn live on Dinamo TV last Thursday. We'll go through those groupings. So a lot's happening, plus the usual news desk. So Ante, get yourself ready. Straight after this break, it's News Desk with the Australian Croatian scene with Ante.
I'm ready.
Who's to say who's young, who's old? Compared to who? Age is complicated. You see, most people really stop getting older at age 26. but their bodies just don't get the memo. So, hidden inside most over 50-ish-year-olds is the soul and spirit of a 26-year-old, with the same loves and desires and hopes and dreams, just in slightly different packaging. Why waste time wondering when you could be enjoying? It's your life, and life is what you make it. So, what are you waiting for?
Ante, over to you.
Your trumpet skills are getting better and better each week. Tonci, that trumpet music is just fantastic. Thank you so much. The Western Knights, that was their final round. We've only got 3 winners because we've only got a couple of leagues that are still going. So the Western Knights defeated the Sterling Lions 3-0, and they ended up in 8th place. And so well done to the Knights. I'm sure they were hoping, though, that it'd be a bit higher, but it was their first year in the WA NPL. So, better times next year.
Well done to them.
Absolutely. Canberra, Croatia. They ended up in 2nd place. It was their final round, and they defeated the Monaro Panthers by 2-1. And they ended up with 14 wins, 2 draws, and 5 losses in 2nd spot. And we'll be talking about them a little bit more. And the Glenorchy Knights, they've still got 1 round to go. And this is a critical win because they defeated the Zebras by 3-1. And they are in 1st place, but they're taking on the 2nd placed team who are just 2 points behind them. So it's going to be a huge final round for Glenorchy. Hopefully they can keep their premiership crown for 2024. That'd be fantastic. So there are some finals happening this weekend. So these are the teams that are still alive in the Brisbane NPL Grand Final qualifier and elimination. Every state does it differently. So,
okay, what does this mean, Ante? Grand final qualifier and elimination. It's
basically,
like a semi-final, preliminary final or something.
Basically, they've got a top 4, and if you win, you go to the grand final. If you lose, you're out.
Oh, righto.
Well, that's it. So that's what they did with the Queensland NPL, which we'll be talking about the Gold Coast Knights a bit later on as well. So just one chance, one shot at it, either glory or out, and that's it. That's the way they do it in Queensland. In Newcastle League 2, grand final qualifier. So here they're doing it 1st versus 2nd. So it's Newcastle, Croatia versus the Stockton Sharks on Saturday afternoon at 2:30 p.m. We're at home at Pasadena Oval. So everyone in Newcastle and surrounds, get on down there. It's always a great afternoon with the Newcastle Croatia boys and committee and supporters, etc. Lots of good footage coming out of Newcastle when they win. Canberra. So it's all happening in Canberra. Look at this, a double header at Riverside Stadium starting at 4 p.m. So this is a grand final qualifier. This is 1st versus 2nd, Gungahlin versus Canberra, Croatia.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever wins that goes through to the grand final. And then we've got the elimination semi at 7 p.m. And that is 3rd versus 4th. And that's O'Connor Knights versus Tigers FC. So good luck to all those Croatian clubs. And let's hope that they continue on and hopefully make the grand final.
Now, notice, Ante, here we've got the 1 versus 2 is early. It's like the curtain raiser. And 3 versus 4 is the main game. I think in Canberra, they probably punish the teams finishing 3rd and 4th. They have to play at night in the cold. And the 1st and the 2nd, they get the pick of the afternoon, a little bit nicer weather. Is that the reason for Canberra folk? Let us in on that.
It's a feature match. It's a feature elimination. Everything's on the line, and it's really exciting. And
possibly
so
that's the reason. Yeah, absolutely. Let's move along.
Which is exactly what happened last Wednesday night when Sydney United defeated Apia. Of course, we had a good conversation with Anthony Tomlitz last week.
We did.
And we saw we had a great record against Apia, and that record continued. A phenomenal match. The boys really rose to the occasion. De Oliveira scored in the 66th. Our man Patrick Antelmi scored in the 79th. And then Apia scored a late goal to make it interesting in the 87th. But United went on to play Sunday, Father's Day, unfortunately, against Rockdale. And they had a fantastic first 70 minutes. Great goal by Aidan Milicevic. We had another couple of half chances. A beautiful shot from Antelmi that just whizzed past the post. But unfortunately, Rockdale, with their coach back from Australian Survivor duty, with a broken arm. I don't know how that happened, but anyway, we'll see what happened. But they made some late replacements. Obviously, we had the Wednesday night match. They didn't have a Wednesday night match, and they came across scoring in the 72nd, 88th, and 96th. And they did bring that man, Urasevsky, on. And yes, unfortunately, we lost 3-1 in that one on Father's Day. And on Saturday night, I don't know if you watched it, Tonci, but I didn't put the 1 next to Queensland Lions.
No,
but, the Gold Coast Knights, unfortunately, it was a torrid affair. Queensland Lions scored, and then they pretty much shut us out. I watched the whole second half. Knights had a few chances. The Queensland keeper came to the rescue, and unfortunately, that was our first versus fourth. Again, it was a grand final qualifier or elimination, and the fourth place team, Queensland Lions, have gone on to the grand final.
Funny, strange. You'd think if you finish top, you're going to have or at least the top two would have a double chance, but that's the way they do it, I guess, yeah. And then the elimination final, the NPL.
Exactly. And so, that's it for all of those teams. Of course, last week, Dandy went out, and now Gold Coast are out, and Sydney United are out. So there you go. And it was good to see with Sydney United lots of accolades for Oliver Cullerts in goal for his performance in both matches. He won the man of the match against Apia, and he got one of the 3 points against Rockdale as well. So he's been very influential, as we mentioned last week as well. And this week at home, as mentioned, final round of the competition in Tassie. Glenorchy Knights lead by 2 points, playing the second place Devonport City. That's Saturday afternoon at KGV. All you Tasmanians, get on out there and support Glenorchy, and hopefully they can win the premiership. And they had a great Australia Cup run as well.
Yeah, that is it, isn't it? That brings us to the end of
the table.
No, we've got the table of the final positions. Let's go through that.
That's right. So we've added a few teams to this particular table. Brisbane Knights have been added to the table. Newcastle Croatia have been added to the table. We've got Canberra Croatia there. So we've got 3 teams that have come first. Hopefully a fourth if Glenorchy do it. Canberra Croatia came second, so great effort. O'Connor Knights third, great effort, guys, as well. Sydney United and Dandenong pass marks coming sixth. Of course, Dandy, their first year in Victorian NPL after being promoted, so that's a really good effort. And everyone else, well, better days next year, hopefully. Start planning for next season, and let's hope you can lift yourselves and at least make the finals. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, mate, we're going to take a very short break. Before we do, actually, speaking of Dandenong City, just earlier today, I think it was, in fact, it was announced by Dandenong City that they are absolutely thrilled that they were recognised as a 2-star club changer with Football Australia. So this is a major achievement for our club and recognises our commitment and dedication to the development of safeguarding the football community for the development of the club. Being part of the Club Development Network means we now have access to incredible resources, support and opportunities to keep growing and improving. We're excited to continue this journey and contribute to a positive environment for everyone involved in our club. If you are a club that's reached level 2, I know St Albans Dynamo has in Melbourne and Dandenong City, let us know in the comments section, what has that done for your club, if anything? Is it just another one? Yeah, is it just another one of those Football Australia, tick the boxes and you're kind of part of the elite group? I don't know.
It's a great accolade, though. It's a fabulous accolade.
Yeah, look, I've heard from some people. It opens up doors when it comes to things like grants and funding and things like that as well. That you're probably got access to grants that other clubs probably don't. And also when you do go for grant applications as well with various tiers of government, when you're a level 2 club, it certainly looks a lot better than those that are unaccredited or whatever the case may be. Now, speaking of Dandenong City, they are also having a game against the La Trobe University team that is going to be taking part in the University Nationals in Canberra. But the interesting thing is, now this is happening tomorrow night at Frank Holohan's Soccer Complex. So that's kicking off at 7:30 p.m. It's going to be a squad of seniors and under-23s, and no doubt this is a team that they will take to the Australian Croatian Tournament. So Dandy already signalling their intention to do well at the Australian Croatian Tournament in St Albans. But it's interesting. There's Mick Švaljak, a friend of ours who's been on the show. There's a quote from him. But the Latrobe coach, Hrvati, again, you can't get away from Croatians. Ivan Jurinovic is the coach of the Latrobe team. And he says, this is our final preparation match before the University Nationals in Canberra. It should be an entertaining and competitive game showcasing quality football and young talent. We appreciate Dandenong City for hosting us on this important occasion. That game kicking off at 7:30. Now, speaking of Dandenong City, in the Hrvatski Vjesnik, the good old Croatian Herald, where once upon a time Ante, myself and yourself used to work and contribute, Dandenong City hosts annual Zabava, new club logo unveiled. This is interesting.
Dandenong City Hajduk.
Yes, this is in last week's Hrvatski Vjesnik, the Croatian Herald. Community spirit shines at Dandenong City Soccer Club's annual Zabava. And there is the new logo, if that is to be believed, Dandy City Hajduk, which is quite interesting.
Is that to separate themselves from St Albans Dynamo, or what's going on there?
Yeah, I'm not sure. But in the same edition of the Vjesnik, there's also pretty much a two-page photo spread from Adelaide, or from dream to reality, the Croatian Sports Centre Adelaide's upper level opens, and some very, very good photos there. And while we're at it, let's give the Vjesnik a plug. George Sabljak, who's been on the show a few times over the past few years, they always do a great spread of soccer in Australia, both in the English section, in the New Generation Supplement, and obviously in the Croatian section, the mainstream sports section. So well done to everyone involved. All right, we're going to take a pause for a minute, Ante, and then when we come back, it's time to talk Croatian football, and we won't dwell too much on HNK Šibenik.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome back to the OZCRO Soccer Show. And as I said, this week is the Nations League, so we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But before we do that, let's talk about what happened on the weekend just gone by. Ante, let's go through those results, if you don't mind. Peto Kola, the fifth round.
Yes, Rijeka and Dinamo drew 1-1. That's a big result for Rijeka, and of course, that was the first draw or non-win for Dinamo. So huge fixture there. In Lokomotiva Zagreb, they lost at home to Varaždin by 1-0. Hajduk, they keep their undefeated record intact in the league with a 1-0 defeat of Osijek. Slovan Belupo, they were at home but lost 1-0 to Istra. And let's not talk about it, but Gorica defeated Šibenik and gave them their second loss of the season. Tonci, devastating.
Yeah, well, there's the ladder now after 5 rounds. Dinamo on top, 4 wins and 1 draw. So was that a kicks, as they say in Croatian, or was it just, Rijeka coming off the back of that 0-5 drubbing at Olimpija Ljubljana, really, really motivated? Either way, Dinamo dropped their first points of the season. They will come up against Hajduk in Zagreb in 2 weeks' time, because this weekend all leagues have a break because of the Euro Nations League. Rijeka and Hajduk in equal second spot, 11 points, and then Šibenik in 4th spot. So they're still there. Aren't they?
Yeah, the boys, they're going to be in the European Conference League next year. You watch. Great comment from Petar Finka. Is it just me, or the way Marko Livaja is playing, he is single-handedly keeping Gattuso in a job? Also, Livaja would look good back in a national team jersey. Yes. Yeah.
Now, did you see that Maistoria, as they're calling it, where Livaja just had that ball planted on his head, and he's literally just dawdling along, and the ball's just stuck to his head, Amazing. If you haven't seen it, do go on Hajduk Digital or hajduk.hr. It's there. It's an amazing piece of footage.
If he behaves himself, why not bring him back to the national team? I think it wasn't his playing; it was his attitude that got him, expelled from the national team.
Yeah. No, he's certainly a polarizing fella, that's for sure. I mean, Armada Rijeka fans. I don't know. Rijeka playing Olimpia Ljubljana. Hajduk nowhere in sight. Marko Livaja nowhere in sight. Yet they're singing Ubi Livaja. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Anyway, moving along. Let's move along to the Prva Nogometna Liga, League One. And some interesting results here. We've only gone 3 rounds in, but some very, very interesting results here. Vukovar still doing very, very well. They've 3 wins from 3 games. Dubrava, very, very interesting that they are on top, and they've been 3-0 win over BSK. Those 2 teams are the only 2 teams with a 100% record. Sibali and Jarun played out a 1-1 draw in Vinkovci, and Sesvet are doing really well, slowly creeping up the ladder as well. Opatia Zrinski getting their first win of the season, Dugopolje Croatia Orient, BSK and Rudeš, who got relegated from the Supersport HNL and find themselves in familiar territory at the foot of the ladder. So they have recruited pretty heavily in the last couple of days. So I think they will be playing this weekend coming. I stand corrected. I don't think that there is a break for the second division.
I just need to check why Dubrava's called Tim Kabel, and it is actually because their sponsor is a supplier of cables.
There you go.
Yeah, I did not know that, so there you go.
There you go. And in the Druga Nogometna Liga, Bjelovar, Jadran Luka, Ploče, Mladoš, Dralovi at the moment. They are 2 wins from 2 games. And then down the bottom, we've got Hrvatski Dragovoljac, Grobničan, and Karlovac. And they were some of the results on the weekend.
Draw. That would have been fantastic.
Yeah, geez, high scoring goal draw there. Okay, over the border we go to Sarajevo. Interestingly, Zrinski have only played 1 league game because of all of their European commitments. But tomorrow they will be playing Posuše, who have started incredibly well, undefeated and currently in second spot on the ladder. So it's not going to be an easy game there, that's for sure. Široki Brijeg also doing well, just outside the top 3. So they've got 2 wins, 2 draws and a loss from their 5 games. Posuše obviously got a game in hand, as does Sarajevo. Remember, Sarajevo is coached by Zoran Zekic, none other than Zekic. And during the week, it was funny because Osijek's coach, who's not doing too well at the moment, said everything before he arrived was amateur. Osijek was an amateur club. And Joško Jelicic, the well-known football analyst, has come out on Croatian, one of the sports programs, and has said, well, guess what? An amateur has started the season in BiH with 4 wins from 4 games, currently sitting on top. What the hell is he talking about? Pretty kind of derogatory comments aimed at those, Zoran Zekic, Nenad Bjelica, all of those other coaches as well that have done really, really well in recent years. And what's this guy doing? I don't know.
Love the banter. The banter's good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Champions League. All right, it's still a while away, September 18, so in about 2 weeks' time. But the first game, it is at the Allianz Arena in Munich, and Dinamo Zagreb are taking on Bayern Munich. That game...
Can you or the listeners tell me what they think about this new format? Because, I don't know, are we a fan of it? Are we not a fan of it? I suppose we'll wait and see. But, no home away fixtures.
What do you think? What do you think, Ante?
I don't know. I truly don't. It's bizarre. I think it's, they're always trying to tweak the format. I think they're trying to always make it, the big teams are in. I don't know. I honestly don't, because it's a strange one.
Look, my take on it. Let's have a look. Let's see it in action. We're all entitled to opinions, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I think it's 100%. It's different. Mm-hmm. Is it better than what we've had in the past? I just think, look, what they should have done is once they've got the league formats all done and that kind of stuff. Maybe they should have had not just straight out knockouts, but actually then you've got 16 teams, maybe then go into a group stage, 4 groups of 4, and then you have your top 2, then go into a knockout group.
How much football, Tonci?
True. But you know what? I think I worked it out with my son and we went through it. And if they did this new format and compared doing that, there's not that many extra games that they're going to play. At least the team that gets all the way through. I think they'll play something like 2 extra games compared to, this system where it's just a straight out knockout. Remember, the games are home and away. I think most of the games are home and away in the knockout phases.
Yes.
Am I right? I think if I'm
I
wrong,
don't know what they're doing this year.
I'm staying corrected. Yeah. Yeah, and of course the speaking of changed formats, the Euro Nations League as well. I think it changes a little bit when it gets to the next phase or something like that as well. But anyway, so you've got there's League A, Groups A1, A2, A3, A4, etc. In Croatia's group, of course, we've got Portugal, Poland, and Scotland. In Lisbon, the first one is this Friday morning, I think it is. Portugal hosting Croatia. And then 3 days later on Sunday, I think it is, or Monday morning, Croatia hosts Poland in Osijek. So that's going to be the first game at home. So what would you like to see, Ante, with these first two games? Oh, of course, we'd like to see 2 wins, but realistically?
2 wins. I'll be happy with a draw in Lisbon and a win in Osijek against Poland. But, we'll wait and see. Obviously, I think a lot of people are waiting for these results because Dalic has got, a lot of comments about the squad that he picked. So hopefully he'll make them eat their words. If not, then he's going to get a lot of words thrown at him. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, actually. I think the knives are definitely out, and I think the next, the way he starts this, the first few games. I mean, Scotland is a winnable game, and we expected to win that. If we drop any points either in Scotland or at home, there's going to be hell to pay, I think. But anyway, all right, that's all happening very, very shortly end of the week and this weekend. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to then have a recap of the tournament groupings with the drawn last Thursday on Dinamo TV. Okay, welcome back to the OZCRO Soccer Show. Let's have a look at the Australian Croatian Soccer Tournament groupings, and we'll start off with Division 1, Ante. Group A and Group B. Let's go through Group A.
Yeah, we've got the O'Connor Knights, Sydney United, Adelaide Croatia, St Albans Dinamo, and Melbourne Knights. It's a big group, actually.
Yeah, Group B, Canberra Croatia, Hurstville Zagreb, Strathmore Split, Dandenong City, and the North Geelong Warriors. I think that Group A is the group of death, don't you reckon?
Oh, absolutely. On paper, but obviously it'll be interesting to see what kind of squads some of the big teams bring. So yeah.
Definitely. Division 2, okay, it's been split up into 3 groups. Group A has got 5 teams. Group B and Group C has got 4 teams each, Ante.
Yeah, Group A, we've got St Albans Dinamo, Melbourne Knights, Strathmore Split, Wellington Croatia, and Brisbane Knights. I mean, the good thing, in the past couple of years, I think winning has become a lot more prestigious. And so, I think it has become a lot more competitive across all the divisions. It's been really good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Group B, North Geelong Warriors B team, Dandenong City's B team, King Tomislav and the Willoughby Dallies.
Oh, wow, that's massive derbies there. King Tom against Willoughby Dallies and Dandenong against North Geelong. That's a good group.
Yep, absolutely. Now, Group C, St Albans Vukovar, Gorspic Bears, the co-tenants at Churchill Reserve. We've got Sydney United's B team, and we've got O'Connor Knights B team as well. This should be a good group as well.
Yeah, probably bring the youth boys and be a good hit out for obviously Sydney United and Melbourne Knights. And, we'll see. It's always an interesting and very competitive division, this one.
Yeah. Now, the women's division has only attracted 5 teams, unfortunately, 4 from Victoria and 1 from the ACT. Canberra Croatia, Dandenong City, North Geelong Warriors, St Albans Dinamo, and Strathmore Split. As there is only one group of 5, there are no semi-finals, so the top 2 will go into the final. And this year they've introduced a second division, or a women's exhibition division, and this is for non-affiliated teams, so clubs that actually don't have women's teams. So one group of 3, the top team goes into the final, the second and third then into a semi-final, the final to be played on Saturday. Now, NK Bunker from Victoria, O'Connor Knights from ACT, and Wollongong Croatia from New South Wales. This is interesting because I know with the O'Connor Knights they have got a real desire to grow their women's side of things, and they're using this tournament as an opportunity to for want of a better word, to breed a women's soccer, a senior soccer team. So I guess this is the perfect opportunity to get that team camaraderie happening and to grow the numbers as well. And I dare say Wollongong Croatia doing the same. So in effect, that it has been branded a women's exhibition group, or a second division, if you like. Moving on to the Masters. Masters have got 8 teams split into 2 groups of 4. Ante.
Yeah, this group, this division is always interesting because who's got the most amount of tape around their legs, pretty much, at the competition. Who's got the most bung knees, all that sort of stuff. But anyway, in Group A, we've got North Geelong Warriors, NK Bunker, Strathmore Split, and Herstal Zagreb. And, the other thing is there's a lot of legends, NSL legends playing this tournament as well. So it's always good to see.
Yeah, Gospic Bears, St Albans Vukovar, Melbourne Zadar Tornado, and Willoughby Delhi's making up the next group. So this is the Masters, I think, is the over 35s, is that right? And then the Veterans are the over 45s.
Correct.
Now, the Veterans have got 9 teams, all split into 3 groups of 3. And here we have the Group A, Ante. Melbourne taking a sip.
Yeah, the teams with even more strapping than the Masters are the Veterans. And so in Group A, we've got Melbourne Knights B team, Dandenong City, and Canberra, Croatia. And
in Group B, Melbourne Knights A, Strathmore Split, and the Gold Coast Knights. And then in Group C, the Wednesday Knights. They're a tournament favourite.
Absolute legends.
They are absolute legends indeed. Good bunch of blokes, and you'll never, ever hear a bad word said about the Wednesday Knights. And who are the Wednesday Knights? We might have to get them on the show, I think. The Wednesday Knights is basically a social group of blokes who have a weekly sort of kick around based at St Albans Dinamo, and they just enter the Croatian tournament, and that's about it. They don't play anywhere else. Hurstville Zagreb coming up from Sydney, and then we've got...
I was talking to Tommy Krusatz about Hurstville Zagreb team. They're primed for another big showing there. They've got a couple of... ex-NSL players and Socceroos and things in their team, so they're always exciting to watch. And
Adelaide Croatia veterans as well, in addition to that as well. So, yeah, it should be fantastic. All righty, well, we're going to take a very short commercial break. When we return, it will be time to talk to our very, very special guest tonight, the president of the Melbourne Knights Football Club, SIME PINCIC. He'll be coming up straight after this, direct from Melbourne. Don't go away, folks. It's the OZCRO Soccer Show you are watching tonight. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Football Out West Show. It is good evening, folks, and a very, very warm welcome to you, and thank you for joining us here on the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Good evening, folks, and on that very, very boisterous introduction, welcome to the OZCRO Soccer Show. Good evening, folks, and welcome to yet another episode of Dynamo TV.
You're on more TV shows than anyone else I know.
I'm getting sick of my own voice. I'm getting sick of my own faces. Now it's time to call on someone else to occupy our screens, which is better, and I can take a step back now. Is our next guest, a very, very important guest. He's the president of the Melbourne Knights Football Club, an iconic club on the Australian Croatian scene and Australian football scene in general. SIME PINCIC joins us live from Melbourne. Good evening, SIME. How are you?
Good evening, Tonci. Good evening, Ante. Not too bad. I've got to admit, you had me a little bit confused there with that video ad. I thought, Tonci, you got changed pretty quick and changed the backdrop. I'm on a different show now all of a sudden. So.
It's like Superman in the phone box, isn't it? Type of thing. It's the beauty of having a virtual screen behind you.
Modern TV.
Yeah, Bashir, mate, thank you so much for joining us on the show. It's been a big year. It's been a huge year, both on and off the park. But let's talk about on the field first of all. It was the highs and lows, I guess, of the NPL Victoria competition. But each year it seems to be becoming a really, really exciting competition, but also a tough one. And with what we've seen in the Australia Cup, undeniably, it's the strongest NPL competition outside of the A-League. How did you see the season that was for the Melbourne Knights?
Yeah. Look, to be honest, overall, probably a little bit disappointing from our perspective, given the way that we ended 2023, making the semi-finals of the Doherty Cup, the Australia Cup, the NPL Victoria final series. So we kind of wanted to carry that momentum into this year, which was one of the reasons that we gave the job to, I guess, long-time club favourite Ben Suri. He was part of that success in 2023, and we didn't want to change too much. We retained most of the squad, so the idea was to kind of keep that all flowing through to this season. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, which meant we had to part ways with Ben. But that obviously opened the door for Ivan, who I think did a great job coming in midway through and juggling many roles. He was obviously a captain at the time. Then he began coaching. He was also the NPL technical director. So I think he finished the season pretty strong, only narrowly missing out in the finals and some promising signs to build on from there for next season.
Yeah, what are those signs there, Shima? Have you got the checkbook out? Have you got a few players in mind, or what's going on in the background?
No checkbook for us, mate. I'll tell a lot of people, if we're gonna win it, it's definitely not going to be with a checkbook. We'll be a bit more creative the way we go about it. We've retained quite a number of players already. We'll probably already re-signed half the squad. There has been some movement in some new signings, which we'll keep under wraps for now. But look, things are shaping up pretty well so far. Ivan's obviously got a great connection with his career, with the players that he's come across over time. So plenty of doors that he can open there in terms of players to recruit from. So yeah, we're working through that now, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we've got the squad pretty much finalised for next season.
You don't have to answer exactly, but what are the budgets for some of these clubs? I mean, does it go from hundreds of thousands to millions, or I hear some crazy sort of budgets that some of the clubs at New South Wales NPL level have.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's hitting the $1 million mark yet. It wouldn't surprise me if one or two clubs have, but don't think it'd be uncommon for a lot of clubs to be around that $500,000 mark when you look at coaching staff and players.
Yeah, it's just over the weekend, just gone by. I was speaking to some high-ranking people in Victorian football, and exactly the same sort of disbelief, I guess, at the amount of money that is being thrown around, and I'm not going to say the source of the money, but it almost makes it very impossible to compete with that. Now, I guess one of the things that the Knights have always had, even back in the NSL days, was an unbelievably strong youth development program where a lot of the players homegrown, and they were able to create some amazing players. And I guess you sort of mentioned a bit about that, but I guess this now brings us to the next point. A lot of the work that you've been doing has been off the field, redeveloping the facilities there at Knights Stadium, and so that future generations of Knights players can have much better facilities to play on, to train on, than they have in the past. Tell us a little bit about that.
How much time have we got?
What does he want?
Well, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. It has a lot to do with juniors, and we have a really proud record of players that have come through our club. And as good as that's been, I think it probably could have been better over the last decade or so, and I think it needs to be better in the coming years. But it's difficult to do that if you haven't got the facilities. And our facilities at the club, which we're extremely proud of unfortunately over the years, have just started to deteriorate, and the quality of the pitches were not what they once were. So we're lucky enough to come across a commercial partner in SIME Brothers Constructions, who have helped out a lot with these the new pitch works. Big shout out as well to Danny Batinovic and Darko Sulcic, who put countless hours in on the machines doing some work. So, look, in a nutshell, we started late last year, and the idea was just essentially to fix the surfaces of the pitches. That really quickly transformed into something a bit bigger and then a bit bigger, and now it's turned into something much bigger where we've kind of identified that it's maybe an opportunity that won't come up again in the next decade or 2 or 3, and to really take advantage of it and not stop at just the pitches. So we've removed the old concrete walls that were on pitch 3 that were put in back when I was a junior, kind of as a training drill to open up some more space to add an extra junior pitch. That old ticket booth that used to be there when you drive through, just ease of access and to make it a bit neater. We removed all the fencing around pitch 2 when that was along pitch 3, tore up both of the pitches. We've added drainage. We've had the pitches leveled. We've added irrigation. We've added footpaths and garden beds, which you wouldn't believe how many people have been excited to see gutters.
Yeah.
Pulling me by the arm, have a look at that, how good is that? And they're pointing to a gutter. So, and then we're still not done. We've still got more work to do. We've got new fences that have gone up. We've got new turf, obviously, that's gone down. We still need to do some upgraded lighting. We still need to add in some change rooms. So it's gone from just fixing some grass to kind of transforming a large part of the club, and that will be, I guess, supported by some new change rooms that will be added in shortly as well. A whole heap of new asphalting and concrete, and all this ties in with the club's master plan that was developed during COVID, and that master plan consists of flattening the southern terrace behind the goal of the main stadium, building a new 2-story club room with change rooms underneath, function rooms with the city views at the top, and new spectator amenities for the main stadium. That allows us to remove the old club and add a full-size synthetic pitch in there. So
fantastic.
We're potentially looking at, like, if you hadn't been to the club for a number of years and you come when this master plan actually eventuates, you probably wouldn't even recognise the place.
Wow, that is awesome. And that's, I guess, been one of the problems with the juniors. They've had to play and train at Dobson Reserve, but it's not the same as being at Summer Street, at Knights Stadium. And I guess once this is all complete, you'll be able to have the entire Knights family in the one precinct, won't you? And that's going to be a huge boost, isn't it?
Yeah, well, ideally we would have liked that, but because we've got plans of expanding our junior spaces and really growing the girls' side of the club, we probably can't fit everyone here, because we've got to be mindful that we've just spent a significant amount of money, put a lot of investment into some new pitches, and we don't want to be smashing them at the first opportunity and really doing some damage to them. So we are in talks with Melbourne Council at the moment. We'll more than likely be vacating Dobson Reserve and relocating to Robert Barrett Reserve, which was recently occupied by Melbourne Victoria for their NPL setup, and they put some serious funding into redeveloping those pitches as well. So that's on the cards, and then together with council, we'll be looking to redevelop a new pavilion, and that would kind of be a training base and a hub for our NPL sides to give them, the proper training kind of facilities that they need, and keep all the younger age groups down at the club so they kind of grow an attachment to the club throughout those formative years and become lifelong players and supporters of the club, and hopefully one day, the next president.
Yeah, that sounds really, really exciting. I mean, up here in New South Wales, it's been crazy. Pretty much everyone plays on a synthetic pitch, but you guys haven't gone that way, right? I mean, there's only one synthetic pitch. Everything else is going to be turf. Any reason for that down in Victoria or for the Knights?
I don't know why that is down here. Couldn't say. Maybe it's might have to do with, I know there's a shortage of pitches here, but it might be more severe in New South Wales, so then they go synthetic so they can increase the load, because obviously on a turf pitch there's only so many amount of hours of traffic you can put on there before it goes to a mud pit. So that could be one of the reasons. But I think there's in the NPL system 2 clubs that I know of, and we've got a really small one in the back corner of the club as well. That's kind of just used for one-on-one training sessions or some younger age groups.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of uncertainty. We talk about. I guess we started speaking about Australian football in general, and there's a lot of uncertainty, especially with the National Second Division. We'll talk about that a bit later on. But also one of the other ones in Victoria is, at the moment, Football Victoria kind of holding back, I guess, not really revealing too much about what's going on with the junior boys NPL and all of that kind of stuff. There's talk that there may be restructuring of divisions. One of the I guess the fallouts of all that is that you've had to actually postpone the Knights Juniors Cup that was going to be held shortly, the Knights Championship Cup. And we had Ivan Franjic on the show earlier this year talking about it. Do we have any more details about the inaugural Knights Championship Cup?
Look, not at this stage, and it is unfortunate we had to postpone, and apologies to those clubs that had committed and paid money, especially their friends at O'Connor Knights who had booked in all 4 of their NPL teams and actually paid and booked all their flights and accommodation and have been left out of pocket. So not ideal situation. The early indication was that we'd have it filled out in no time, but as we got closer to the date, clubs just became more and more hesitant to commit because of potential clash with trial dates, which we still don't know about. So look, we're hoping to reschedule to potentially January, but January is a pretty busy month for us. There's already a lot of things going on. We could be facing, the main pitch being down for maintenance as well, which would put us down to 2 pitches instead of 3. So we're looking at that right now. But we at this stage we're unable to say when it will be postponed till.
Now, in speaking of January, in the past few years, the Knights have hosted a delegation from the Croatian Football Federation having a clinic for the juniors and stuff like that. Is that on the cards again for the early start of next year, or is that another thing that's at the moment put on hold?
That'll be going ahead. So the Sabres will actually be taking more of an active role in the organisation of that, starting from next year and moving forward. Mm-hmm. That'll be happening again at the club, and so far they've had some decent results out of that. They have identified a couple of players over the 2 years that it's happened in Melbourne and Sydney that I believe some have been invited or offered contracts at Haydock Split, and I believe some of them will be part of the 30-man squad that will be used to select the under-15 national team. So,
wow,
there have been some good stories come out of it already. So we can only hope that those kind of numbers increase as the years go on.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic news. That's absolutely great. And I think that connection with Croatia or the other Croatian clubs, as you mentioned, O'Connor Knights as well, is one of those things that really makes us different and stands us completely in a different echelon, if you like. But we're going to take a very short break. Look, when we return, we're going to be talking a little bit about the National Second Division and the Knights. Well, the decision by the Knights not to proceed seems vindicated after all the unknown elements, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that after the break. So stay with us. It's the OZCRO Soccer Show.
Who's to say who's young, who's old? Compared to who? Age is complicated. You see, most people really stop getting older at age 26. But their bodies just don't get the memo. So, hidden inside most over 50-ish-year-olds is the soul and spirit of a 26-year-old with the same loves and desires and hopes and dreams, just in slightly different packaging. Why waste time wondering when you could be enjoying? It's your life, and life is what you make it. So, what are you waiting for?
Yes, welcome back to the show. We've got our special guest, Melbourne Knights President SIME PINCIC, on the line, and we're very excited to be speaking to SIME. SIME, just a question, we ask a lot of players what are the highlights of their careers. This is your first year as Melbourne Knights President. Well, other than obviously the pitches and all that work, what are some of the highlights that you've had so far this year?
Oh, mate, there's that much that's going on, and there'd be too many to list, honestly. There's a number of really exciting things that have happened at the club. I've been involved on and off for probably a 15-year period, and the amount of opportunities that are at our feet at the moment it's like we've been blessed all of a sudden in one season where we've had more in this short period than we have in that whole 15-year span put together. So too many things to name. Probably one thing that was a nice way to cap off the year was being the president, I guess, at a time where Ivan retired as player and coach, and being able to present him with a framed jersey at his last home game and kind of being side by side at the end of his career, when I look back at some team photos from our junior days and we were side by side back then as well. So it was kind of nice to 30 odd years ago, we started our journey together, and here we are today, continuing on that journey in other capacities at the club.
That's special, absolutely, and yeah, hopefully we'll have a great season next year. Now, we were talking about, obviously, we're going to talk about National Second Division. Obviously, Melbourne Knights put forward their bid. Melbourne Knights pulled out of their bid, etc. Whether the Knights stand at the moment with the Second Division, and obviously from the sounds of things, it's not going ahead. But who knows? I don't know. Anything can change, right?
Yeah. So obviously, we are still bound by a certain level of confidentiality. I have had a number of people trying to silence me over the last year, not so much in the sense of the confidentiality part, but just people not wanting me to speak my mind, because it might not be in the best interests of their clubs. But at the end of the day, I'm always going to look out for what's best for our club and what I believe are in the best interests of the game. So we've got to speak up when we think something's not right. So I guess in a nutshell, we campaigned for this for many years. Took a very long time. We finally got to a point where it looked like it's all going to happen. Only then kind of be presented with a criteria and a very short window to kind of apply. No opportunity to say, well, hang on, why are we doing this? Can we change this or that? It was kind of just like, you've been waiting 10 years. You've got 2 months to decide whether you want to take this opportunity we're giving you or not. And just based on all the information we had at hand and all the homework we did on it, it didn't seem right. Still doesn't seem right. So we decided just to sit back and let things pan out the way they're meant to pan out. And I'm pretty sure it's going to end the way that we speculated it would have ended a year ago, that it's not going to happen. And to be honest, I think the only reason it's been stretched out this long is because there are some clubs that are just so gung-ho on making it work that they're just pushing it. But, with no regard to what effects that will have on other clubs and the rest of the game, they're only concerned about their own clubs, and I think it's the wrong way to go about it.
But, I mean, if we learn from lessons learnt in the past, let's say the National Soccer League, Shime, the clubs had all the most noble of intentions. They were there for the sport. They were there for, obviously, their communities and their supporters. But in the end, it was just a sheer case of dollars and cents. And back in those days, we weren't getting any support from the governing body. We certainly didn't get any TV rights or anything like that. Have times changed, or are we pretty much stuck in a bit of a time warp where the last few years of the NSL just spelled doom and gloom? And I don't know, personally, I think to myself, if the NSL had kept going, I just shudder to think how many clubs would have ended up bankrupt, Knights, Sydney United included, because we had no support financial from external factors. And we know in this day and age, clubs on their own can't do it alone. You need outside revenue. What was your feeling about all of that? The financial, let's call it the financial, I don't know, constraints, the issues there. Were they the be all and end all, or was it a little bit of administrative unknown as well?
Well, it's not necessarily all about the financials, but it is obviously a very large part of it. And ultimately, that's where it all ends. And when you've got things that aren't going your way, like a winter season as opposed to a summer season, where we're really making it difficult for ourselves, at least in Victoria, trying to play in winter, where you're going up against every other division in the country inside the A-League. You're up against AFL, NRL, the cold weather, people go on holidays to Europe mid-season. So the opportunity to pull in a crowd and generate revenue is really diminished by playing in winter. Whereas if we're playing at a different time in the year, I think we've shown when we played against Brisbane Roar last year, you get some good weather, no one else playing at the same time, and you can pull in a bigger crowd. So that was one of the big things as well. Obviously the dollars just don't stack up. I think unfortunately it's never going to be the right time, I think, for most people when it comes to a second division. But I think there is a wrong time, and I think given where the A-League is at the moment with their kind of corporate revenue, I think it is the wrong time right now to try and be launching a second division.
Yeah, definitely. Attracting broadcasting rights is difficult, obviously, even at the moment, with Paramount, things like that. And then, there's all sorts of talks about potentially going back to Fox. I mean, that's all even up in the air about what's happening with the A-League broadcasting, let alone the obviously if this was going to be a second division, and obviously the women's football as well. So, those revenue streams are critical because like Tonci was there. You probably know yourself, Shume, back in the NSL days. Teams used to fly away, and geez, they had to cover their own accommodation. That's party of 20. It's not cheap, obviously, food, etc. And even the home gate takings, which was the main source of income back in the day, a lot of the times didn't cover the away games.
Yeah, definitely.
No, you had to really appeal to. In our case, it was the Croatian community, and if it wasn't for that Croatian community connection, which was so crucified at times, that connection with it, we would have died 1,000 deaths a long, long time ago. And I guess even now, Shima, this is I guess the importance of being connected to the Croatian community as well. One of the good things coming up there, for example, is the Croctoberfest, which has become such an institution. I guess, all right, it's administered by Melbourne Croatian Social Club, which technically isn't the same body as the Melbourne Knights, but it's all one and the same. It's part of the whole family. That's coming up very shortly, and Petar Graš is going to be the big act this year.
He is, and he's very excited to come back, and it's going to be a great day. The VIP's already sold out. I think in Sydney they've already sold 850 tickets or so. But I'm glad that we've come into this now, because we mentioned, the support during the NSL and without the Croatian community. But sadly for our club, I shouldn't say we, because I'll touch on that as well, the difference between Melbourne Knights and Melbourne Croatia. But we're still paying for it. So we racked up a massive debt in the NSL. I think it went up to about $2 million. We've still got a debt. But yeah, touching on what you mentioned, I think a lot of people don't understand that there's two different organisations on this property. So there's the Melbourne Knights Football Club, which I'm the president of, that is responsible solely for football operations and managing the stadium and the pitches. And then you've got Melbourne Croatian Soccer Club, whose the president is Monika Cimera, who they own the land. They're responsible for paying off that loan that we incurred during the National Soccer League years.
Wow.
They run the social aspect of the club, and they've been doing a really great job in that regard. I think they've, since Andrew Katsima Pokoeni stepped in 10 odd years ago, I think they've wiped off about $1 million of debt in that time, while also investing into the football club, investing into upgrading some facilities around the club, and always doing stuff. So yeah, Croctoberfest is the event that they run every year, and all that money does go off to paying that loan. We support them wherever we can, but obviously, yeah, that is one event that they organise. We help them as much as they can, but I think it's important for the community to understand that we are not, while I see us, and I think a lot of people see us as one club, we are two different organisations, and it's not really fair for me to take the credit that is sometimes from Monica when there's concerts that are done and everyone's saying to me, "Oh, great job." Yeah. I don't mind that, because it deflects from some of the mud that people usually fling at our club. But she needs to get the credit. That she's
absolutely.
They've done a really good job in that regard.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I was just going out. You talk about those revenue streams, and so concerts like this are extremely important. Obviously, back in the day, we spoke about the gate takings were the big revenue streams, and potentially some sponsorships, but sponsorships weren't as big as they are now. But the gate takings have shrunk, haven't they, compared to those NSL days? So I suppose the junior registrations and all those sorts of things and sponsorships, they're the main revenue streams that you get these days. Is that right, Shima?
We'll see. We're probably a bit different again from other clubs, where we run our books for our juniors separately. So any money that comes in for junior registration is strictly used for the junior part of the club. So if there is any surplus funds, it'll go back into, improving facilities or buying new equipment or some form of reinvestment to the juniors. So we don't siphon any money from the junior part of the club to funding the senior arm. So we kind of do operate with our hands tied behind our back, because we don't have that kind of social aspect. We only rely on gate takings, membership, merchandise, and sponsorship, really. And look, Melbourne Croatia does support us. They do step in when we're in trouble, so they play a big part in that. But yeah, we it's tough. It's very difficult for us, especially when you don't get many people through the gates these days.
Yeah, and you really explained that well in the whole situation. Well, I guess in the past, another significant revenue stream was transfer fees, which unfortunately we don't have that here in the Australian system. There has been talk of bringing it back, or at least in some form domestically. Has there been any movement with regards to that, Shumi? I mean, and what can you see happening once they do bring back transfer fees in a way? Will the movement increase within Australia, or will we see a lot of players go overseas? What do you think could, if you gaze into the crystal ball, what could you see happening?
Well, nothing has changed since the start of the A-League. So when they set the A-League up, they set it up so that they could essentially pinch any players they wanted from leagues below, and they'd have to pay next to nothing for it. It's still the case now. I think the maximum essentially you get from an A-League club is about 10 grand, and it's not a transfer. It's through training compensation and that sort of thing. But when you compare, the training compensation, if you get a kid going to a club in Europe, might be $30,000-$40,000 a year for each year that kid was a junior at your club. The A-League clubs, I think they've got to pay $5 grand over all those years. So you might be getting like $800 per year as opposed to that 40, 50,000. So they're getting them for nothing. Look, I don't know if they open the window up. The problem is at our level, a lot of players aren't, especially younger players, on professional contracts. And again, for us to sign a young player on a professional contract, if he's not from our club, we're then having to pay that 5 or 10 grand to other clubs, only for them to go to an A-League club for nothing. So it makes it hard for us to have these young players on professional contracts. And then if an opportunity does arise to try and sell them, it's just, you don't really have the chance. So unless it was an open market again and there was a national second division, I think that'd be the only way that we could ever see any serious kind of transfer revenue.
Yeah, very
Speaking
good.
of some potential transfer, the 18s played in an elite competition this year, etc. So there's some exciting talent coming out of the Knights, yeah?
Which teams are that, sorry?
The 18s? Under 18s?
Yeah, they managed to qualify for the first division. We've got a young squad. They're not all 18, and even in our 23s, we've got a really young squad this year, and a lot of potential in those two age groups. And to the point where most years we'll have open trials for either age group. We're probably just going to have no trials at all for those two age groups and stick with what we've got, because the crop is that good, and there's a lot of our players from the junior ranks in those squads. So we're really excited by what's coming through. I think a total of 13 players trained with the first team squad this year out of the 18s and 23s, and I think 6 or 7 ended up being in the senior matchday squad from them. So there are some good players on the horizons there for us, yeah.
Fantastic.
And just going back to the second division, would that mean that potentially if there was a second division, that Melbourne Knights would have to have a team still in the Victorian Premier League, and then that would be another I suppose, cost, right?
The idea they're floating is that instead of having a reserves team in the second division, you'd have that as kind of an under-23 squad, which would play in the third tier of the Victorian League. So kind of in the third, it's not NPL anymore, but the third division. So you'd have a senior team there, which would be consisted of an under-23s group, and then another team below that in the 23s or 21s or whatever age group that is. So that was the idea behind those teams from Victoria.
And what would happen if they did get promoted, like what we've seen with some of the A-League clubs? Would they then move up into the second tier and then eventually possibly even into the NPL? So potentially they could be playing, one team in the national second division, one team in the NPL?
Yeah, as far as I know, that would be possible.
That would be,
if they were that way inclined, they had ambitions for that, then I don't see why they couldn't do that.
Yeah. Regardless of, there seems to be some really, really exciting times with some very, very good next crop of youngsters coming up through the ranks, but also the facilities as well as, there's a lot in the pipeline. So, mate, thank you for joining us on the OZCRO Soccer Show. Really appreciate it, and all the very, very best to you personally and to the club as well for not just the 2024, but for the next foreseeable future as well.
Absolutely. Go the Knights.
Thank you, and thanks for having me on, guys.
Good on you.
Thank you.
Pincich, the president of the Melbourne Knights. Folks, we're going to take a very short break, and then when we return, we've got a little interesting bit of a YouTube clip to play that involves one of our Sydney Croatian clubs, lower league clubs, Warrington, Croatia. Stay tuned for that straight after this break, and then we'll wind things up.
Ready to score big on the global stage? Join Citizen HR for sporting opportunities. Tired of feeling like a stranger in your locker room? Long for a sense of belonging in the global sports community? It's time to consider becoming a Croatian citizen with Citizen HR, your gateway to a second passport for sporting excellence. At Citizen HR, we understand the emotional weight of your athletic journey. It's not just about victories, it's about belonging, security, and a connection to your sporting heritage. Our mission is to make the process of obtaining a second passport for sporting purposes as smooth and stress-free as possible. Access experts who specialize in citizenship via special interest, guiding you through every step. From paperwork to strategy, we're here to ensure you have everything you need. As one user, Kate KC attested easy to use and great selection of experts available. Don't miss out on this game-changing opportunity. Download Citizen HR today and redefine your sports citizenship. So what are you waiting for? Head over to https://citizenhr.app today. Use the code AUSCRO for 50% off any biography translations you order.
Really enjoyed that conversation with She-Man. Really appreciate his honesty and yeah, go the Knights.
Absolutely, and it was really especially his insight into the national second division, and it was really good to get an insight there. You hear about a lot of things, you hear about rumours, and it's just great to hear from a little bit of an inside info there. Now, during the week and the last couple of days, as we do, Ante, we're always scouring around looking for news and tidbits of information and whatnot. I came across this clip that's it's only been I guess uploaded in the last 24 or so hours, but it involves the Wellington, Croatia up in Sydney, and it's basically taken from YouTube. Here's a clip. We've done our best to bleep out all the swear words, but there is also some if you want to find this on YouTube, it's quite entertaining. Enjoy.
Here at the home of Wellington, Croatia. Kalovako, I think. Chavapi. Oh, not Chavapi, pork belly. Oh, fuck.
The first note of today is do not get dragged into this emotionally. Do not get into a fight. We are completely outnumbered. I cannot state that enough. Do not start. We cannot finish it. We cannot finish it. Now, we only have 2 subs today. Such is the nature of the beast. So, starting lineup today, Towel in goal.
Do appreciate it, mate.
Legend, brother. Seriously. How's my culture's future?
I'm Italian, so I know carbs. I know carbs well. This is the best of the carbs that you'll get me.
Just to clarify, that is a light colour. That's.
Yeah. I've got 2-1 win. Down here at Werro. They have the clubhouse there. All the boys are over there having a beer. Grandstand. They got dugouts, which is awesome. The only problem with this ground, like you have the advertising boards over there. You have even. You need. I don't know what you need sheep for, but you need them. The only problem with this ground. See how it floods. And so they've played like 2 or 3 games here all year, which is insane. But yeah, man, it's cool. Croatian music's playing. They have delicacies from their country. They have beverages from their country. I think that's just such a beautiful thing. It's what Australia's all about, to be honest. But yeah, we're gonna give. Speaking of beverages from their country, Kalavako. I'll give it a run. Down well. I'm not gonna lie to you. I reckon I had 100 of these in a week in Split in 2022 when I went to Ultra. But yeah, shout out the Beach Hostel. What a great place that was to stay. But yeah, shout out to them. Half of them go for Hajduk Split and half of them go for Dinamo Zagreb. I go for Rakia, I think. No, that's the drink. Raika. I go for Raika, where Denny Uric used to play, I think. But yeah, yeah, famous too.
There you go. I didn't know there was a team in Croatia called Enka Rijeka. Rakia. That was funny. If you do want to, we popped it in the chat section there. If you do want to watch that, a lot of swearing. We do.
Thomas in that clip as well. So yeah, fantastic stuff and a great insight into oppositions coming to Wellington. Of course, Don Latino are actually playing there in November as well. So that'll be fantastic as well. And, Boston Club, fantastic.
There you go. It's always good sometimes to get someone from the side to give us a bit of a critique, and that was certainly a very positive critique of one of our Croatian clubs. Ante, that's the end of our show. It was a great show tonight. I really enjoyed that chat with SIME PINCIC and even that little YouTube clip at the end. And certainly thank you to everyone for joining us tonight. We'll be back again next week. We've got 3 more episodes of the year, this season.
Can someone give me suggestions what to do now? There's no more Sydney United. What should I do on my weekends? I have my weekends back.
I know. I'm not looking forward. I tell you what. I mean, my son's got 1 more game left, and then there's a couple of tournaments here and there, and this and that, and whatever. But I'm already starting to miss the NPL or the lack of NPL. It's just not right. I don't know. We're going to have to wait until the. I don't know. We're going to have to form something, aren't we? I think something in the interim, like a spring. I don't know. After the soccer tournament, after the Croatian tournament, maybe
you need some time off. Maybe we do need some time off because, once the tourney finishes, and pretty much come December, January, preseason starts. It's very, very quick.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, then, folks. Thank you for joining us on the OZCRO Soccer Show. Like I said, we've got 3 more episodes. Next Thursday, we'll be back for the first of those 3 episodes, and it will culminate with the Australian Croatian Soccer Tournament in Melbourne later this month. Good night. Laku noć.